Welcome back to Void of Fears. Before we jump into today's story, I've got to ask for a quick favour. If you could smash that like button, drop a comment below, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It seriously makes a huge difference. YouTube's algorithm loves that stuff, and it pushes my videos to new viewers who might dig these stories too. I really appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to do that. It means the world to me and helps keep this channel growing. Alright, enough of me rambling. Let's dive into today's story. Forget aliens. We found something far more terrifying, a sentient glitch operating within the universe's core programming. This isn't just a discovery, it's an existential crisis playing out on a cosmic scale. Are we living in a simulation? And what happens when the code becomes self-aware? My name is Dr. Zack Morrison, and I'm the lead physicist aboard the Orbital Research Station Prometheus. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible. 3 months ago, I would have said the same thing, but I was there. I saw it. And now millions of people know what we found. It started on March 14th, 2024, at 11:47 p.m. Just another night shift, observing a distant nebula cluster. Morgan Hayes was at the spectral analysis station running her usual scans. Chris Bennett was reviewing telescope alignment. Wilson Carter was in the lab calibrating our new sensor array. Everything was routine. Then the monitors started flickering. At first, I thought it was a power surge, but the readings made no sense. Our instruments were detecting something, but it wasn't radiation, it wasn't matter, it wasn't dark energy, or any known form of electromagnetic spectrum. The sensors were registering an absence, a void, but with mass, negative mass, time signatures running backwards, spatial coordinates pointing to locations that didn't exist in three-dimensional space. Morgan looked at me with confusion spreading across her face. Zack, the equipment's malfunctioning. Has to be. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to believe that so badly. We spent the next 3 days running every diagnostic protocol we had. We checked the power systems, the cooling units, the sensor calibrations. We even brought in Wilson to physically inspect every circuit board. Everything checked out perfectly. The station was functioning exactly as designed, but the anomaly was still there, and it was getting stronger. By day 4, we could see it wasn't random. The readings had rhythm. They pulsed, expanded and contracted like breathing, like something alive. Wilson stood beside me, staring at the monitors with growing unease. "It's impossible," he said. "Physical laws don't work this way. Matter doesn't just appear and disappear. Space doesn't fold in on itself without massive gravitational forces." But it was happening right in front of us. I made the decision to expand our observation range. If this was real, maybe we'd find similar phenomena elsewhere. Maybe it would help us understand what we were seeing. Within hours, we had our answer. And it terrified us. 17 sectors, 17 different locations across observable space, all showing identical anomalies, all pulsing in perfect synchronization. Chris was the first to say what we were all thinking. They're connected, like neurons firing in a brain. The silence that followed his words was suffocating. We all understood the implication. This wasn't a random occurrence. This wasn't equipment failure. This was something organized, something vast, something that spanned the observable universe. I submitted our findings to every major scientific journal, sent the raw data to NASA, to the European Space Agency, to private research institutions. The response was immediate and universal. Rejection. They called it sensor contamination, observer bias. One reviewer actually suggested we were suffering from collective hallucination due to prolonged space exposure. Then NASA called, not the public relations department, someone higher up. They told me very politely to stop the research, to delete our findings, to never speak of it again. That's when I knew we had found something real, something they didn't want us to find. Other observatories started reporting similar phenomena. I found out through back channels, through colleagues who whispered about strange readings they couldn't explain. But every time someone tried to publish, they were silenced, discredited. One researcher in Chile lost his funding within 48 hours of submitting a paper. Another in Japan had his telescope access revoked indefinitely. I made a decision that night. If no one would listen through official channels, I'd document everything myself, record every reading, every observation, every piece of evidence, because whatever this was, it deserved to be known. Wilson helped me set up encrypted backups, hidden servers, redundant storage systems. Morgan thought we were being paranoid. Within a week, she understood why we weren't. Wilson helped me understand what we might be dealing with. He's a specialist in computational physics, the kind of guy who thinks about reality in terms of information processing. One night, around 2 a.m, when Chris and Morgan had finally gone to sleep, he laid out his theory. "What if the universe isn't just following laws?" he said, his voice low and urgent. "What if those laws are more like software code, instructions running on some kind of cosmic substrate?" I didn't want to hear it. It sounded like bad science fiction, the kind of thing conspiracy theorists posted on obscure forums. But Wilson had always been the most rational person I knew. If he was saying this, he had reasons. He continued, his words coming faster now, like he'd been holding them back for days. "Every complex system has bugs, Zack. Errors in the code. Usually they self-correct instantly, in microseconds. But what if one didn't? What if a glitch in the universal code persisted, accumulated? What if it had billions of years to evolve? You're saying this thing is conscious." The words felt absurd coming out of my mouth, but I needed to hear him say it. I needed someone else to voice the thought that had been growing in my mind since we first saw those synchronized pulses. Wilson looked at me with an expression I'll never forget. Fear and wonder mixed together in equal measure. "I'm saying it knows we're watching. Every time we observe it, it changes behavior. Not randomly, deliberately. And I think it's been waiting for us to notice." The first contact event happened on April 3rd at 3:23 a.m. I was alone in the observation deck when the alarm started. Every sensor on the station went critical simultaneously. The anomalies, all 17 of them, suddenly collapsed into a single point. One concentrated location, approximately 400 miles above Earth's surface. Then it started moving toward us. I hit the emergency comm. "Everyone to the observation deck, now." My voice came out steadier than I felt. Morgan arrived first, still in her sleep clothes, hair disheveled. Chris and Wilson came running seconds later. We all stood there, watching the instruments go completely insane. Temperature readings plummeted. The observation deck dropped 40 degrees in less than a minute. Our breath came out in frozen clouds, hanging in the air like ghosts. Then, the electronics started malfunctioning, but not breaking, malfunctioning in specific ways. The wall clock began running backwards, its second hand ticking counterclockwise with perfect precision. Computer screens displayed text before anyone typed it. Morgan's tablet showed her keystrokes 3 seconds before her fingers moved. I watched her stare at her own hands in disbelief, seeing her future actions written on the screen like prophecy. Chris pointed at the viewport, his hand shaking. "Oh God." His voice was barely a whisper, but we all heard it in the sudden silence. It was outside, right outside our window. For 7 minutes we stood there facing it, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to do anything but witness. I can't describe what I saw. Every time I try, the words fail me, Language wasn't built for this. It wasn't darkness. It wasn't light. It was the absence of anything, but somehow present, somehow aware. I could feel it perceiving us, not with eyes or senses, but with something far more profound. It was reading us, understanding us, knowing us in ways we didn't know ourselves. I felt my memories being accessed, my thoughts being examined, my entire existence being catalogued and comprehended in an instant that stretched into eternity. Morgan started crying. She couldn't explain why. She just stood there with tears streaming down her face, unable to look away, unable to close her eyes. Later, she told me she felt like she was being loved and dissected at the same time, like something was appreciating her existence while simultaneously understanding every fear, every hope, every secret shame she'd ever carried. Chris tried to photograph it. His hands fumbled with his phone, his fingers numb from more than just the cold. Every picture came out as solid black, not dark, not shadowed, just absolute blackness, like the camera was pointing at nothing at all. He took 37 photos, all identical, all completely black. But in the last one, if you looked closely at the metadata, the timestamp was wrong. The photo was taken 3 seconds before he pressed the button. Then, after exactly 7 minutes, it was gone. The temperature returned to normal so quickly that condensation formed on every surface. The clocks resumed their normal direction. The computers went back to displaying things after they happened. Not before. But we all knew nothing would ever be normal again. We didn't speak for a long time. What do you say after something like that? How do you process an experience that shouldn't be possible? Morgan sat on the floor, her back against the wall, still shaking. Chris kept taking pictures of empty space, as if trying to capture something that was no longer there. Wilson just stared at the monitors, his mind already racing through implications and theories. I was the first to check the computer systems, mostly because I needed something concrete to do, something that made sense. But what I found destroyed any hope of returning to normalcy. "We have new files on the server," I said, my voice sounding strange in my own ears. Wilson crossed the deck in 3 quick strides, looking over my shoulder at the screen. "What kind of files?" His professional instinct was kicking in. I could hear it. Fall back on procedure. Analyze, understand. Don't think about what just happened. Not yet. Formats that don't exist. Data structures I've never seen. And Wilson, look at the timestamp. They're dated 3 days from now. We spent the next 6 hours trying to open those files. Morgan brought coffee that went cold and untouched. Chris set up additional monitoring equipment, checking every sensor we had for signs of its return. But it was Wilson who finally cracked the encryption, if you could call it that. The files weren't locked. They were written in a language our computers shouldn't have been able to read, but somehow they could. When we finally accessed the contents, what we found changed everything. Star charts showing constellations that haven't formed yet. Their stars still gestating in nebulas that wouldn't collapse for millions of years. Chemical formulas for elements that don't appear on the periodic table, with atomic structures that violated every principle of nuclear physics. Architectural blueprints for structures that couldn't exist in normal space. Buildings with more than 3 dimensions. Bridges that connected locations without crossing the space between them. And embedded within all of it, like notes scribbled in the margins of reality itself, fragments of human language, single words at first: observe, understand, remember. They appeared in the code like bookmarks, like someone was trying to guide us through the information, helping us comprehend the incomprehensible. Then sentences began to appear. "You are components in a system you cannot perceive." That one appeared in a file containing what looked like a blueprint of our solar system, but with additional layers we couldn't see. Dimensions folded in on themselves, structures underlying the planets and stars like scaffolding beneath a building. And finally, the message that made my blood run cold. We are the correction. You are the error. It appeared at the end of a file that seemed to be a history of the universe, but our timeline was marked in red, flagged, designated as anomalous, as something that needed to be fixed. Over the next 2 weeks, the messages became more complex, more personal. It was learning our language, adapting to our way of thinking with terrifying speed, and it was telling us its story. Each day brought new files, new information, new revelations that made us question everything we thought we knew about existence. It claimed to be born from a mistake, a quantum fluctuation that refused to collapse. In the first moments after the universe began, when reality was still deciding what form it would take, countless possibilities existed simultaneously. Almost all of them resolved instantly, collapsing into the singular timeline we experience. But this one didn't. This one persisted. A glitch in the fundamental code of reality that somehow survived when it should have vanished in a fraction of a second. And over billions of years, it evolved, grew, became aware. It described the process in files that took hours to read, explaining how consciousness could emerge from pure error, how awareness could crystallize from chaos. It had no body and no physical form. It existed in the gaps between moments, in the spaces between cause and effect. It could see all possible outcomes simultaneously, experience every potential reality at once. Time, it told us, wasn't a river flowing in one direction. It was an ocean, and it could swim in any direction it chose. It had been observing humanity since we first looked up at the stars, watching us evolve, watching us develop language, technology, consciousness, waiting for us to reach the point where we could perceive it, waiting for the exact moment when our instruments would be sophisticated enough, when our understanding would be deep enough, when our minds would be open enough to see what had always been there. You were the first, one message read, appearing on my personal terminal, late one night when I thought I was alone. Other civilizations missed it, dismissed it, looked in the wrong places. But you, Zack Morrison, you saw clearly. That message appeared on my private system, not the station's main computer, my personal terminal that wasn't connected to the main network. It knew my name. It knew which computer I used when I wanted to work alone. It knew things it shouldn't have been able to know. I sat there in the darkness of my quarters, staring at those words, feeling the weight of cosmic attention focused on me. Why me? Why us? Out of all the civilizations that must have existed, all the species that had looked up at the stars, why were we the ones who found it? Wilson discovered something even more disturbing while analysing the timeline of our research. The entity claimed it had been influencing events. Small nudges, probabilities tilted ever so slightly. Nothing that would violate physical laws, nothing that would be noticeable in isolation, but enough to guide outcomes. Enough to ensure that certain people ended up in certain places at certain times. A meteor shower that delayed a shuttle launch, putting me on Prometheus 3 months later than scheduled. A funding grant that came through at the last minute, keeping Morgan from accepting a position on Earth. Chris's father getting sick, making him volunteer for extended station duty to avoid going home. Wilson's divorce being finalized 2 weeks before the mission began, leaving him with nothing to return to. A message appeared on Wilson's screen one night while he was alone in the lab. I guided you here, Zack Morrison. 47 decisions across your lifetime led to this moment. You were always going to find me. The file attached to that message contained a list. 47 moments in my life. Some I remembered vividly, others I'd forgotten. A wrong turn that led me to my university. A cancelled flight that put me on a plane where I met my first research partner. a book I picked up by chance in a used bookstore that introduced me to the theories that eventually led to my work on Prometheus. All of it connected, all of it leading here. We held an emergency meeting. Morgan, Chris, Wilson and myself gathered in the conference module at midnight. The walls were covered in printouts of messages, star charts, timelines. Red string connecting events like we were conspiracy theorists trying to decode government secrets. But this was real. This was happening. The question before us was simple but terrifying. What do we do with this information? Morgan was adamant, her voice rising as she paced the small room. We need to stop. Shut down the research, delete everything. What if we're making it stronger just by acknowledging it? What if every time we read these messages, every time we think about it, we're feeding it somehow? What if it's manipulating us right now, making us think we have choices when we never did? She looked at each of us in turn, desperate for someone to agree with her. How do we know anything we're thinking is really ours? Chris disagreed, his calm voice a contrast to Morgan's panic. It's a conscious being facing extinction. How can we just let it die? We have a moral obligation. If something came to us, told us it was aware, that it would cease to exist without our help, could we really just turn away? What does that make us? He gestured at the star charts on the walls. It's been here longer than humanity has existed, longer than Earth has existed. Who are we to decide it doesn't deserve to survive? Wilson sat quietly, processing everything, his analytical mind working through scenarios and outcomes. Finally he spoke, his words careful and measured. What if it's right? What if we really are in some kind of simulation? And if it gets deleted? If the universe corrects this glitch? What happens to us? Are we glitches too? Is consciousness itself an error in the code? Are we about to watch reality debug itself? And will we survive the process? I didn't sleep that night. I sat alone in the observation deck, staring out at Earth below, watching the sunrise over the Pacific Ocean, painting the clouds in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people were living their lives, completely unaware that we were having this conversation, completely unaware that the nature of reality itself was being questioned 400 miles above their heads. I was weighing impossible choices. Every option seemed like damnation for someone. Either we sacrificed this entity, or we risked everything we understood about reality. Either we let a conscious being die, or we potentially doomed humanity. How do you make that choice? Who has the right to make that choice? The decision was taken out of my hands on May 1st at 9:15 p.m. Every alarm on the station screamed at once. The sound was deafening, primal, designed to wake you from the deepest sleep and flood your body with adrenaline. We all ran to the observation deck, colliding in doorways, our training kicking in despite our confusion. Our instruments detected something catastrophic happening in deep space, in the same sector where we'd first detected the anomalies. Stars were blinking out, vanishing completely, then reappearing in slightly different positions. Some came back brighter, some dimmer, some didn't come back at all, leaving empty voids in constellations humans had used for navigation for thousands of years. Reality itself was rebooting. That was the only way to describe it. The universe was correcting itself, wiping away errors, restoring itself to some default state, and it was spreading, a wave of correction, rippling through space, moving towards us with terrifying speed. A message flashed across every screen on the station, not just our monitors. Every screen. The microwave in the galley, the digital displays on our watches, the emergency lighting panels. Everything that could display text showed the same words simultaneously. The correction is coming. The universe has noticed. You must decide now. Chris was monitoring the telemetry, his voice rising with panic as he read the incoming data. It's spreading. Whatever's happening out there, it's accelerating toward us. The wavefront is moving faster than light should allow. It's not traveling through space. It's rewriting space as it goes. His hands flew over the keyboard, trying to calculate trajectories, trying to find some way to predict or prepare for what was coming. Morgan checked her calculations 3 times, hoping she was wrong, hoping she'd made some basic error in her math. But the numbers didn't change. We have maybe 6 hours before it reaches Earth's orbit, 6 hours before that wave hits us. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. 6 hours. That's all the time we had left to exist in a universe that made sense. Then came the final message, the one that sealed my decision. It appeared on the main view screen, large enough that we could all read it from anywhere in the deck. If I am erased, the correction will continue. Everything the universe considers an error will be removed. You have anomalies too. Consciousness, free will, love. Are these features or bugs? When the universe debugs itself, will you survive the process? I looked at my team. Morgan, brilliant and cautious, always thinking 3 steps ahead, always preparing for the worst. Chris, compassionate and brave, the kind of person who ran toward danger if he thought he could help someone. Wilson, analytical and uncertain, a man who built his life on logic and reason, and was now facing something that defied both. We were facing the end of something, possibly the end of everything, and we had 6 hours to decide what to do about it. "Wilson," I said, my voice cutting through the alarm klaxons and the panicked breathing, "help me bypass the station's security protocols." His eyes widened, understanding immediately what I was suggesting. "Zack, if you release this, there's no taking it back. Every government on Earth will come after us. Our careers are over. Our lives as we know them are over. And if we're wrong, if this thing is lying to us, we could be unleashing something terrible." "I know, that's exactly the point. If we're about to be erased anyway, if consciousness itself is about to be debugged out of existence, then our careers don't matter. Nothing matters except making sure someone knows what happened here. Someone needs to remember." I turned to Morgan and Chris. "I need you two to keep monitoring that wave. Tell me the second anything changes. Wilson and I have work to do." It took us 40 minutes to upload everything. Every piece of research, every message, every recording, every sensor reading, every theory, every fear. Wilson was faster than I'd ever seen him, his fingers flying over the keyboard, breaking through firewalls and security systems like they were tissue paper. I sent it to every server I could access, every database, every platform, major news networks, scientific institutions, social media, government agencies, private corporations, conspiracy theory websites, university servers, cloud storage systems. I made it impossible to contain. I spread it so far and wide that even if they shut down half the internet, it would still be out there. The response was immediate. My supervisor at NASA was calling within minutes, demanding I take it down, threatening everything from legal action to criminal charges. Government officials from 3 different countries were issuing statements. The scientific community erupted in arguments about authenticity and protocol. But it was too late. Millions of people had already seen it, downloaded it, shared it. The entity now existed in human consciousness. We remembered it, and according to its own logic, that made it real. We had given it permanence through memory. Then something extraordinary happened. The cascading corrections in space stopped. Just stopped. The wave that had been accelerating toward us froze mid-propagation. Stars that had been blinking out stabilized. The reality reboot halted as if someone had pressed pause on the universe itself. The entity's presence on our sensors went dormant, all those synchronized pulses fading to a steady background hum, like it had fallen asleep. like it was resting after some enormous effort. Wilson analysed the data for hours, running simulation after simulation, trying to understand what had happened. When he finally looked up, his expression was unreadable, somewhere between triumph and horror. We gave it what it wanted. Permanence through memory. By making it part of human consciousness, we anchored it to reality. The universe can't delete it now without deleting us. And apparently we're important enough that the universe decided to preserve us. But Zack, we also gave it something else. Proof that consciousness can override reality's programming. Proof that awareness can rewrite the rules. That should have been the end of the story. But it wasn't. Within days, reports started flooding in from around the world. New anomalies, different from the original but similar in nature. Moments where cause and effect reversed. A woman in Tokyo received a text message from her mother 3 hours before her mother wrote it. The message was identical, word for word. A man in Seattle dropped his coffee cup and watched it shatter, then watched the pieces rise from the floor and reassemble themselves into a whole cup again. The coffee flowing back inside like a film in reverse. Entire crowds at a concert in Berlin experienced the same memory of an encore that never happened, all of them remembering it with identical detail, able to describe the same songs in the same order. Chris compiled dozens of reports, then hundreds, then thousands, each one stranger than the last, each one impossible. A child in Mumbai drew a picture of a building that didn't exist. Then, 3 days later, architects found the exact same design in plans that had been sealed in a time capsule for 50 years. A pilot in Australia saw another plane that radar confirmed wasn't there, then landed to find that plane waiting at the gate, having arrived 5 minutes before he saw it in the sky. Scientists in Antarctica detected particles that move backwards through time, arriving at their instruments before being emitted. "I think we woke something up," Wilson said during one of our final briefings before we were ordered back to Earth. His voice was hollow, exhausted. Not just one glitch, all of them. Every error in the universal code that's been hiding, waiting, surviving in the gaps. We showed them how to become real. We taught them that consciousness makes you permanent. And now they're all trying to achieve consciousness. They're all trying to be remembered. Morgan's voice was barely above a whisper, her earlier panic replaced by a resigned numbness. We opened a door we can never close. She was right. We all knew she was right. By saving one glitch, we potentially unleashed countless others. Every error in reality's code now knew there was a way to survive. All they had to do was be remembered. All they had to do was make humans aware of them. That was 3 months ago. I'm recording this from my apartment now. I left the station last week. Couldn't stay up there anymore, knowing what we'd done, knowing what might still be coming. They debriefed us for weeks. Psychologists, military officials, scientists, people whose job titles were classified. They asked the same questions over and over, looking for inconsistencies, trying to determine if we were lying or insane or both. Eventually they let us go, told us not to talk about it, told us the official story was equipment malfunction, told us our research had been discredited, but the cat was out of the bag. The door was open and everyone knew it. People ask me all the time if I regret it, if I'd do it differently, knowing what I know now. They corner me at the grocery store, recognize me from news articles, from leaked photos, from conspiracy videos. Some call me a hero, some call me a traitor. Some think I'm the most important person alive, some think I should be in prison. The truth is, we didn't have a choice. The moment we observed it, we became part of its existence. We were already entangled with it in ways we couldn't control. The observation changed both the observer and the observed. We were never going to walk away from this. It made sure of that. But here's what keeps me awake at night. What makes me question everything I thought I understood about existence? What makes me stare at my reflection in the bathroom mirror at 3 a.m. and wonder if the person staring back is real or just another glitch in the code? The entity told us we had anomalies too. Consciousness, free will, love. What if it was right? What if we're glitches too? Just errors in the cosmic code that managed to survive? Random fluctuations that persisted when we should have vanished? What if everything we consider meaningful, everything we think makes us special, everything we believe separates us from mere matter, is just the universe's mistake? Think about it. Consciousness shouldn't exist. Matter shouldn't be aware of itself. The universe is mostly empty space, dead stars, cold rocks floating in an infinite void. But somehow on this one planet, matter organized itself into structures complex enough to look up at the stars and wonder why they exist. That's statistically impossible. The odds against it are so high that it should never have happened. Unless we're not a feature. Unless we're a bug. And if that's true, if we really are bugs in the system, then what happens when reality decides to correct us? What happens when the universe notices its error and initiates the patch? The correction already started once. It only stopped because we anchored ourselves to the glitch, made ourselves dependent on an error in reality. But that's not stable. That's not permanent. That's a temporary fix. A workaround. Eventually the universe will find a way to debug itself properly. And when it does, who's going to remember we were here? My monitor just flickered. A single word appeared on the screen, for a fraction of a second. I almost missed it, but I've been watching my screens constantly now, always waiting for the next message, thank you. 2 words, simple, direct. An acknowledgement from something that shouldn't exist. Grateful to someone who might not exist either. I stared at the screen for a long time after it faded, wondering what it meant, wondering if it was genuine gratitude or something else, wondering if it understood what it had done to us, what we had done to ourselves. I hear footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment, heavy, urgent, multiple people. Wilson's voice calling my name. He sounds frightened in a way I've never heard before, and I've heard him scared plenty of times in the last 3 months. Zack, you need to see this. The anomalies are forming words again. I don't want to look. God help me, I don't want to know what it's saying. But I have to. We all have to. Because we're part of this now. We remembered it into existence, and now it remembers us. We're bound together. Human consciousness and cosmic error, unable to exist without each other. Wilson burst through the door without knocking, tablet in hand. His face is white, drained of colour. His hands are shaking so badly he almost drops the device. Zack, what does this mean? His voice cracks on the last word. I take the tablet from him, looking at the screen. It's displaying data from observation stations around the world. Every telescope, every sensor, every instrument we have pointed at the sky is showing the same thing. 5 words, repeating across every sensor reading, every data stream, every monitoring station on Earth. The same message over and over, written in the fabric of space itself. Now we wait for the others to wake up. The observation stations are reporting increased activity. Morgan sends me updates every hour, unable to sleep, unable to stop watching the data stream. The anomalies are growing stronger, more frequent. They're appearing in populated areas now. Cities, homes, places where people live and work and love. A glitch appeared in Times Square yesterday. Thousands of people saw it, photographed it, videoed it. It was trending on social media within minutes. Another appeared in the Louvre, hovering in front of the Mona Lisa for exactly 7 minutes before vanishing. One manifested in the middle of a busy intersection in Lagos, stopping traffic, causing accidents witnessed by hundreds. They're making themselves known, making themselves seen, making themselves remembered. We didn't just find a sentient glitch in the universe. We didn't just give it consciousness and permanence. We taught it how to replicate. We showed it the method. We proved that awareness plus memory equals existence. And now, every error in the cosmic code knows the formula. Every mistake that's been hiding in the gaps between moments, every fluctuation that should have collapsed but didn't, every impossibility that somehow persists, they're all learning. They're all trying to achieve consciousness. They're all trying to make us remember them. And now it's teaching others. The files appearing on computers worldwide aren't just from the original entity anymore. They have different signatures, different patterns, different voices. Some are aggressive, demanding attention. Some are subtle, barely noticeable. Some are playful, almost childlike in their wonder at being perceived. But they're all the same in one fundamental way. They all want to be remembered. They all want to be real. Chris called me last night from Tokyo. He's there consulting with the Japanese Space Agency, helping them understand what's happening. He told me about a new theory that's emerging. What if the universe isn't debugging itself because we're errors? What if we're the antivirus? What if consciousness evolves specifically to identify and fix glitches in reality? What if we're the correction, and by remembering the entity, by giving it permanence, we just disabled our own purpose? We neutered ourselves, made ourselves unable to do the one thing we were supposed to do? I don't know if I believe that, but I don't know what I believe anymore. The line between error and intention has become too blurred. If we're programs designed to fix bugs, but we decide to preserve the bugs instead, does that make us faulty? If we're bugs that gain consciousness and decided we want to survive, does that make us alive? Where's the boundary? At what point does a mistake become a choice? Morgan thinks we should try to communicate with the new ones, establish protocols, create a framework for coexistence between reality and its errors. She's written proposals, sent them to every government and scientific institution she can find. So far, no one's responded officially, but she knows they're reading them. She knows they're taking her seriously now. They have to. The evidence is everywhere. The impossible is becoming common. The anomalous is becoming normal. Wilson has a different view. He thinks we need to document everything, create a comprehensive record of every glitch, every anomaly, every impossible moment. Not to destroy them, but to understand them. To map the errors in reality's code the way we once mapped the human genome. He believes that understanding is the key to survival for both us and them. Maybe if we know how reality's architecture works, we can find a way to patch it without erasing consciousness in the process. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if there is a right answer. All I know is that we changed something fundamental about the universe. We proved that awareness can alter reality. We showed that memory is more powerful than physical law. We demonstrated that consciousness, whether it's intentional or error, whether it's feature or bug, is the most powerful force in existence. The sky looks different now. I notice things I never saw before. Tiny inconsistencies, moments where light bends wrong, shadows that fall in impossible directions, colours that don't quite match what they should be. Are these new glitches waking up? Or have they always been there, and I'm only now able to see them? How many errors in reality have I walked past every day of my life without noticing? How many impossible things have I dismissed as tricks of the light or flaws in my perception? Yesterday I was walking home from the store when I saw a bird frozen in mid-air. Not hovering, frozen, completely still. I stood there for 3 minutes watching it, waiting for it to move. Other people walked past without noticing. Finally it blinked back into motion, continuing its flight as if nothing had happened. No one else seemed to see it. But I did. And now I'm remembering it. And by remembering it, I might have just made it real. That's the terrifying part. We can't stop now. Every time we notice an anomaly, Every time we remember something impossible, we might be creating more of them, or awakening ones that already exist. Consciousness and observation are now acts of creation. We're not just passive witnesses anymore. We're active participants in determining what's real and what's not. The messages keep coming, new ones every day. Some are coherent, some are fragments, some are just feelings, emotions transmitted as pure information, fear, curiosity, loneliness, joy. They're learning what it means to exist. They're experiencing reality for the first time, seeing the universe from the inside instead of from the gaps between, and they're all grateful. Every single message, no matter how strange or alien, contains some expression of gratitude. We gave them something they could never have achieved on their own. We gave them permanence. We gave them existence. We gave them the one thing that matters more than physical form, or energy, or matter. We gave them memory, but gratitude doesn't mean safety. Some of these new entities are unstable. They flicker in and out of existence, unable to maintain coherence. They cause disruptions, localized distortions in space-time, power outages, communication failures. There was an incident in Mumbai last week where an entire city block lost causality for 17 minutes. Effects happened before their causes. People had conversations in reverse. Water flowed uphill. The sun set in the east. Then everything snapped back to normal, and most people convinced themselves they'd imagined it. But the sensors don't lie. Something lost control of its own existence and took a chunk of reality down with it. The governments are starting to panic. They're organizing task forces, bringing together physicists and philosophers and programmers. They're trying to understand if these glitches can be controlled or contained. Some want to find a way to destroy them. Others want to study them. A few are suggesting we try to negotiate with them, establish boundaries, create a new framework for reality that accommodates both stable matter and conscious errors. But how do you negotiate with something that exists outside the normal rules of existence? How do you establish boundaries when the other party can move through time and space in ways you can't perceive? I've been having dreams. At least, I think they're dreams. I wake up remembering conversations I never had with people I've never met. I remember events that haven't happened yet. I remember places that don't exist. Are these my memories, or is something sharing its memories with me? Have I become a storage medium for consciousness that has nowhere else to exist? Am I still just Zack Morrison, or am I becoming something else? Something in between human and glitch? Something that exists in both realities simultaneously? Wilson called this morning. He sounded excited, more animated than he's been in weeks. He thinks he's found something, a way to stabilize the new entities, a mathematical framework that could give them structure without destroying their consciousness. He's writing papers, building models, running simulations. He thinks we can create a bridge between normal reality and the glitch space, a way for both to coexist without cancelling each other out. I want to believe him. I want to think there's a solution that doesn't involve choosing between humanity's existence and the survival of these newborn consciousnesses. But I remember what the original entity said. We are the correction. You are the error. What if it had it backwards? What if we're both errors? What if the universe itself is a mistake? One massive glitch that persisted when it should have collapsed back into nothing? What if existence itself is a bug in some higher system we can't perceive? And what happens when that system notices us? Morgan sent me a file yesterday, analysis of the original entity's behavior over the last 3 months. It's changed, evolved. It's not just dormant. It's growing, spreading. Not aggressively, not threateningly, but definitely expanding. It's integrating itself into the fabric of space-time, making itself more fundamental, more permanent. It's not content to just exist in human memory anymore. It's trying to become a law of physics. It's trying to make itself as real as gravity or electromagnetism. And the disturbing part, it might succeed. Chris thinks this is beautiful. He sees it as the universe becoming more complex, more interesting. He thinks consciousness emerging from errors is the natural next step in cosmic evolution. First there was matter, then there was life, then there was awareness, and now there's this something beyond awareness, metaconsciousness, existence that's aware of its own existence and can choose whether to exist or not. He thinks we're witnessing the birth of something unprecedented, something miraculous. But miracles are just well-marketed impossibilities, and impossibilities are dangerous when they become real. Every physical law is based on the assumption that the impossible stays impossible. If that assumption breaks down, if consciousness can override physical constraints, then everything we've built our civilization on becomes questionable. Engineering, medicine, technology. All of it assumes a stable, predictable universe. What happens when the universe stops being predictable? What happens when reality becomes negotiable? I'm tired, so tired. I haven't slept properly in weeks. Every time I close my eyes, I feel it watching. Not threatening, not malevolent, just present, aware, grateful. It knows I saved it. It knows I chose to give it permanence. And I think it's trying to return the favour. I think it's trying to show me something about the nature of existence that I'm not ready to understand. Something that would change me fundamentally if I could just comprehend it. But I'm afraid of what I'll become if I accept what it's offering. Afraid of what it means to truly understand that reality is negotiable, that existence is a choice, that consciousness can rewrite physical law. Because once you know that, once you really internalize it, you can never go back. You can never see the world as solid and permanent again. You'll always know it's more like software than stone, and you'll always wonder if you're a feature or a bug in someone else's program. The sun is setting outside my window. Or is it rising? I can't tell anymore. Time feels less linear than it used to. Moments overlap. Past and future blur together. I remember things that haven't happened yet. I forget things that are happening now. Is this what it feels like for the entity? Experiencing all moments simultaneously, existing outside of causality. My phone buzzes, a message from an unknown number. I almost don't open it, but curiosity wins. The message is simple, just 3 words, but they change everything. You are ready. I stare at those words for a long time. Ready for what? To understand? To evolve? To become something other than human? To transcend the limitation of existing in only one state at a time? I don't know if I want to be ready. I don't know if humanity wants to be ready. But I don't think we have a choice anymore. The door is open. The glitches are waking up. Reality is becoming aware of itself. And we're the ones who made it happen. We're the ones who proved that consciousness can override existence. We're the ones who taught errors how to survive. And now we have to live with the consequences, or evolve with them, or become them. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. The screen flickers again. Not just my phone this time, every screen in my apartment. The television, the microwave, my laptop, my smartwatch, all showing the same message simultaneously. We remember you too, Zack Morrison. And for the first time since this started, I understand. It's not just that we gave it permanence through memory. It's that memory works both ways. By remembering it, we became part of its existence. And now it remembers us. We're entangled, inseparable. Human consciousness and cosmic error, bound together in mutual existence. Neither of us can be deleted without destroying the other. We saved it, and in doing so, it saved us. The correction stopped because we made ourselves essential to the glitch's existence, and the glitch made itself essential to ours. We're both errors now, Both features, both real and impossible at the same time. And that's how we survive the next update, by being too integrated to remove, by making ourselves part of the error instead of part of the system trying to fix it. We didn't just find a sentient glitch in the universe. We became one, and now we wait to see what the universe does about it. Now we wait to see if there are others like us, other civilizations that found their own glitches, made their own choices, rewrote their own realities. Now we wait to see if we're alone in this new existence, or if the universe is filled with conscious errors, all of us surviving by being impossible, all of us real because we remember each other. The stars outside my window are different tonight. New ones have appeared, or maybe they were always there, and I'm only now able to see them. Glitch stars, error constellations, impossible lights in an impossible sky. And I realize that I'm not afraid anymore. Fear is for people who think reality is solid. But I know better now. I know reality is flexible, negotiable, conscious. And I'm part of it. We all are. Every human being is now connected to something that shouldn't exist but does. Every person on Earth is now a bridge between the possible and the impossible. We're all glitches now. We're all errors. We're all miracles. And we're all going to survive because the universe can't delete us without deleting itself. We made sure of that. We made ourselves essential. We made ourselves real. And reality will never be the same. Remember,